You're listening to Two Guys Talking Wine with Michael Pinkus and André Prue.
I need to start this episode with an urgent, important, critical message from Two Guys Talking Wine. Michael Pinkus does not, in fact, hate Chardonnay.
I know that.
It happened. I was at a tasting that you weren't at recently, and another winemaker was joking with me about your dislike for Chardonnay, and I need you to know on the record, I had your back. Where I was just like, well, Michael doesn't actually hate Chardonnay.
We took that a little far, and for a little too long. Mm-hmm. And I was just at the All Canadians. I judged a flight of 24 Chardonnay.
Oh, that's it.
That's all that I was given. And you get the key later. Turns out I liked an amphora Chardonnay.
Yeah, I mean, the amphora-made wines are kind of like orange wines as well, where it's just like you expect them to be messed up. I know you and I didn't agree on this, but Volta, a new winery in Prince Edward County, I loved the amphora Chardonnay. I know you weren't.
That's the one.
Okay, because so I have a feeling you were drinking with your eyes when you drank the sample.
Could have.
Because I remember you telling me that you thought that wine was bad when you first tasted it, and I was like, Michael, like, what's wrong with you?
Or I got a different vintage or something.
No, it's the same vintage. It's their first one. There are some interesting things happening at Volta. I'm sure we'll touch on that at a later date. But before we move on to that, we do just have a bit of ground to cover. You and I recently did what's now our annual tasting at Flat Rock.
Yeah, kind of enjoying the annual tastings at Flat Rock. You get to see what they've done. Mm-hmm. That new facility at the back where they do the tastings, really, really nice, and how it looks over the vineyard.
Yep.
Yeah, so we tasted the new versions of, and they bring out, which is really neat. I'm not really sure where they go. There's an argument at Flat Rock about what's 10 years. So,
well, there's no way that 2017 is 10 years ago, given that we're at the beginning of the 2026.
17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26.
You stop. No, because we're not at the end of 2026. That wine wouldn't have been harvested until the fall, and it wouldn't have been vinified until the following year. No. So it's 9 years at that.
Well, that's where they started counting. So,
but I mean, you and I, we've talked a lot
about...
Those
wines are holding up, by the way.
Yeah, that's it. I was about to say, like, you and I, we've talked quite a bit about aging Chardonnay, and we're going to talk about the experts tasting, because I did talk about aged Chardonnay at the experts tasting, but I think we're starting to see, I often say that when I started writing about wine in 2010, that I was really fortunate to get in at 2010, because that is when the Ontario wine industry really entered this adolescence. I think it was still a little awkward, a little quirky, but for the most part, like, its personality was really starting to come through. I can even remember, like, even certain wineries who specialize in Syrah, like back at 2010 when I first started writing about wine, you would still get some inconsistencies, like tasting 2008, 2009, or 2011, getting a little bit of bell pepper in with the Syrah. But by like the mid 10s, by like 2015, I don't think there's anyone making Syrah that has a reputation staked on Syrah that's making underripe Syrahs.
Well, forget the bell pepper in the Syrah. We were making very Chinon style Cabernet Franc with a lot of that herbal, green pepper note, and it's all but gone these days. Yeah. Like in a weak vintage. Can I use the word now, or is that
cool vintage?
In a cooler vintage. I know you're very big on me using bad versus good, so I was going with weak, and you didn't like that. Now,
well, no, but I mean, it does inspire something.
In those vintages, you can get a little bit, but I mean, we are learning to get rid of it, hanging fruit longer, and getting more fruit characteristics in the Cabernet Franc. Like, look, it's not going to be California, but it is. It's definitely there. We're definitely got the tobacco, the raspberries, like everything's in line, and the green pepper is gone.
Yeah,
which I enjoy.
Yeah, but I mean, just speaking about like just sort of aging wines is So at this tasting, we got to taste the new stuff. So the 2025s. 2025, I think, is going to be a bit of a sleeper vintage. And it's interesting because, like, I think finally the shadow being cast by 2020 is moving behind us. And then we have the trauma of 2021 that is still fresh in winemakers' minds that I think the way things kind of headed towards the end of last summer, we didn't even realize how good of a year it was. And I recently tasted in barrel my 2025 Pinot Noir that I made from the Vienney vineyard that is still probably 12 to 18 months away from even being bottled. And just the intensity of 2025, like I know you and I, like, we're not going to score them because we don't score tank samples, but the supreme potential of the 2025 wines that we tasted out of barrel at Flat Rock was just, I'm usually looking forward to Rusty Shed. I'm looking forward to Gravity in 2025.
I'm starting to like what I'm tasting from 2025. I'm working right now on the Rosé report, which will be out July 3rd. Of course, I'm seeing a lot of 25 rosés. Obviously purposely made rosés these days. It used to be rosé was a throwaway wine. Now people are purposely making really good, fresh, easy drinking, but with great acidity. Like the 25s are looking really good.
I mean, are you talking about me? You talking about ADX?
You don't have a 25.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We don't have a 25.
So,
how is the Rosé report going?
The Rosé report's coming along. I'm going to be over 200 wines again this year, maybe close to 250 that I've tasted. The report itself is going to have over 200. It's looking good, and the sparkling wine category is getting better, even with wines that I didn't expect, like have not come through as being very good in the past. It's like something is clicked in some of these
local or international
wines. Both.
Okay.
Yeah. But especially local. Some of the lower end wines that have made kind of passable, if not sparklings that have not made the report before because they were a little bit not as refreshing, have really picked up their game, and it's great to see that people are understanding how to make a good rosé sparkling, which is the hardest sparkling to make.
Traditional method, or you seeing some good
a little
Charmat?
a little bit of both, which I'm really happy about. Right, a lot of the Charmat methods are getting better.
I think this is something where I'm actually looking forward to your Rosé report because, like, I know you have your rating system, good, better, best, and then sangria. I like to keep sparkling Charmat, typically Charmat. Obviously, I'm not wasting traditional method bubbles, but I like an Aperol Spritz in the summer. I like to make sure that I have something that's clean, doesn't have a lot of bitterness to it, because, I mean, you're already getting that from the Aperol, or if you use Campari instead of Aperol, you can do that. So, like, I'm just looking for something clean and inoffensive. So I'm going to be paying attention to your Rosé report for the Sangria category this year.
Yeah, the Sangria category is one of those interesting ones. Mostly it's wines that are either too sweet or too high in acid, and you just balance them, right?
Yep.
If it's too acidic, you want to balance that off with some red fruits. If they're too sweet, you balance it off with a citrus fruit, and and usually they're for the most part inexpensive, and they work that way. And when I originally started with that category, I was like, oh, nobody's going to be very happy with that. But I think everybody's looking for something to, especially. I always hate to use the phrase "in this day and age," but I really do believe in this day and age, people are looking for alternatives, not just to drink wine, obviously, but to make their own cocktails at home. And sangria is a pretty easy one to make.
I'm lazy. I think cutting up all that fruit's a bit of a chore, but I mean, I did tell you when you walked in the door, I've got a weird craving for sangria, so I think I'm going to be making some sangria this weekend at some point.
See, there you go.
You and I have both been doing some judging. I'll go first, and then you go second. I had the privilege of being invited to help be a judge on the panel for the experts tasting, which is an industry tasting that takes place in the late spring, early summer down in Niagara. It gets a lot of the industry together, a lot of winemakers, VQA promoters, where the VQA Promoter Awards get given out. And it was a wild experience to be a part of the panel that was judging these wines.
At the experts tasting alone, they had 150 people or more at that.
Yeah,
at that, which is very strange. I don't think I've ever seen the room that packed, which is a good sign for the Ontario industry.
A good sign, yeah. The theme for the experts tasting was Chardonnay.
Yeah, I can't poo-poo it anymore because we just did the thing at the beginning. So, no, I found it very interesting based on the wines, because I understand you are the guys who chose the wines for the tasting.
So this was interesting, is we had about 130 wines that we tasted over 4 weeks. We were a panel of 12. There were...
Which I think is a bizarre number. I'm going to start there.
I know, it should be 11. We had some issues with tiebreakers.
Or 13.
Yeah.
Figure out, get a tiebreaker in there. But all right.
It was my first time doing it, so I didn't know what I was looking for beyond tasting for general quality in a flight. But Barb, if you're listening to this, I would love to do it again so I can make some better notes on observations. What I thought was fascinating was there were 4 of us on... I'm including myself in those 4 on one side of the room. There were 2 sommeliers, someone from the LCBO who listens to the podcast. Thank you for listening to the podcast, and myself. And then there were 8 winemakers. And what was interesting was there were certain wines that were split among professional allegiances. And I wish I'd kept better notes on that, because there were a handful of wines that myself and the 3 non-winemakers all put our hands up for voting for to go forward, and the 8 winemakers all gave the thumbs down. And I thought it was interesting as well, because there were also certain wines where, less impactful, but my hand went up with the 8 winemakers while the 3 industry people put their thumbs down. And if I had the wherewithal to pay attention to when this, like the first time, couple times it happened, I was just like, oh, that's interesting. And then like when the 3rd and the 4th time it happened, I was just like, oh, I should have documented this so I could see which wines they were and try to formalize a hypothesis as to why the room would be split and what are industry people tasting for that winemakers aren't, and vice versa.
So nobody gave a reason. It was like a thumbs up, thumbs.
Well, you had
thumbs up, thumbs down.
We had to advocate, but the thing is, we really didn't get into the advocating for your decisions until we had like a 6-6. We had a split room where we would ask people to be like, okay, why do you feel strongly that this wine should not go through? Why do you feel that this wine strongly should go through? And that's how we would do our tie breaks. But it's also like a non-competitive tasting. Like, we didn't give out a gold medal. It's just like we were literally selecting the 30-ish best wines that ended up at the final tasting.
Interesting. I remember you did at some point bring a bottle home.
I did.
That was the
Jim Warren Stony Ridge, 2004 Unoaked Chardonnay. So I apologize if I've repeated myself on some of the stuff that we've talked about, because at Brock they have the Canadian Wine Library, and this is something I'm sure you and I are going to find an excuse to go and do something on it, because it is an important piece of the industry, because we have a lot of wineries without libraries. We do talk about cellarability and I think we are getting to a point where we're finally getting some amazing Ontario wines with a really long life ahead of them, where, I talked about writing in 2010. I think even back then, the number of wines with longevity would be fewer and more far between than where we're at right now. Do not flick that microphone, Michael. You're about to flick a fly off the microphone, and I would have had to edit that pop out. But that wine ended up not making it onto the flight. I was hoping it would, because they were all sealed with cork, and the bottle we brought home was corked. One of the bottles we tasted at the library were also corked, and we just didn't want to risk it. So at the experts tasting, we ended up subbing it for what was a very lovely Cave Spring Chardonnay.
So not on the realm of Chardonnay, but I recently opened a bunch of wines from my cellar that were 2012s, and we were talking about ageability, cellarability. These were all Canadian wines. Some of them were British Columbia. Some of them were from Ontario. There was a 16 Mile 2012 Rebel Pinot Noir, like a
Probably
Rebel,
still showing
like,
great.
Still showed wonderful. There was a 2013 Quail's Gate Pinot. Now that is a Stewart family reserve. That was showing excellent. There was a 2012 Trias Grand Red. Well, we've already done Trias, so we know how those age. There was a Creekside Lost Barrel, 2012. Outstanding.
I think like that is a wine that we don't talk about. Like we as an industry don't talk about enough. Like everybody knows about Trias Red. I don't think as many people talk about like Lost Barrel or Broken Press at Creekside the way they should. Like their top tier wine at Creekside is one of the profoundly underrated wines in the area.
And then the 2012 Reserve Cabernet Sauvignon was just, I think, a standout during the tasting. It was just so good. And since we are on the topic of Creekside, I mentioned I had been at the All Canadians. Good for them to win Wine of the Year, Red Wine of the Year, with their 2024 Gamay. A Gamay won Red Wine of the Year.
The All Canadian Wine Championship.
Yeah, I was so thrilled by that.
Yeah, I mean, before we move on to wine competitions, because we're going to be working on a bigger piece. I'm not exactly sure how we're going to go about it. But is there anything else to address with the experts tasting? Not going to lie, I was two things. One, I was very proud and honored that I got a chance to speak. And like, you know, I'm not trying to overstate the importance of the industry, but as someone who has no formal wine education, that's been stumbling along, learning as much as he can while he goes along, to be recognized as someone qualified to lead a flight of wines in a room full of my now peers was very humbling. And it was also a strange feeling for me because I used to perform on stage a lot, like as a musician, and I wouldn't get nervous. By the end of my time on stage, you know, even when I did my my final recital for my university degree, which is in music, for those of you who don't know, I had to perform a full trumpet recital, 45 minutes, 3 concertos, a Handel suite for my professor and for 2 other professors and all my family and friends. I didn't get nervous walking onto that stage. Like I knew I had it. I was insanely nervous at the experts tasting.
It's why we call you Chuck Mangione, right?
Because it feels so good.
Feels so good, baby.
So we've had, I guess, all the big wine competitions have recently wrapped up. The Wine-A-Line tasting took place. I don't know if I've just a little too disconnected from life. I didn't even realize that was taking place. That didn't pop up in my social media feeds. I haven't heard much about it.
I haven't heard the results or anything like that. They roll them out pretty slowly. So, yeah, there's I think a couple weeks ago, based on when we're recording this at the end of June.
Mm-hmm.
And the All Canadians happened. They're rolling theirs out a little bit slowly as well. At least on social media, they are. I think they put the results out, but then they slowly, social media them over the course of weeks.
Yeah, how was the All Canadian Wine Championship? I know it's one of those things where BC tends to really clean up, and Ontario seems to historically struggle at it. Has that shifted yet?
So what I thought was very interesting this year, I saw all of the I guess the double gold medal winners in the red category is what I saw, and then I kind of was like, I'm beat. I gotta go. But I think of 18. I think it was 18. We split 9-9, and obviously won best red of the year. So yeah, it was nice to see that Ontario held its own in the red wine category. I'd have to check the white wine category, but yeah, BC usually is the one that cleans up. And you know what? I never understand
Chardonnay. An Oak Chardonnay from BC was white wine of the year. The Dry Rock An Oak Chardonnay 2025.
Yeah, so. What I always find out is Ontario never takes the ice wine. But you know what? The one that won the ice wine this year, like top ice wine of the year, a Sauvignon Blanc. I have never seen a Sauvignon Blanc ice wine, and it was so clean, so beautiful. Probably, André, and I've tasted, and you, I'm sure, have tasted a lot of ice wine in your day. Probably one of the best ice wines I've ever tasted. The acidity, because of the Sauvignon Blanc, was so on point, and just the flavors of the wine were so good. I know you're looking it up right now. It was just such a great wine. I didn't even take note of who it was. Oh, was it Bench 1775? That
Yes.
sounds familiar.
Whistler Sauvignon Blanc ice wine.
Yeah, it was just outstanding ice wine.
Right on.
So-
Then the Ontario Wine Awards took place.
They did. Yes, I saw that. The results came out while I was at the All Canadians, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say it. I was absolutely shocked by what I saw.
Here's the deal: is in the interest of like full disclosure, like you and I are like we have our own wine competition. We're actually getting ready to run the second version of it. We're actually getting ready to go film some footage so we can get a really nice promo video together. Like we're trying to up the production value. I understand that wine competitions are marketing tools. They are something that the wineries want, should, and need to be able to use to help market their products, to help guide consumers to which products are good.
Correct. Yeah.
And I'm taking a quick look here. Out of the All Canadian Wine Championship, there were 1,085 wines entered and 430 medals given out, and that's across trophies, double gold, silver, bronze. Honestly, if you're on a wine competition and you're listening to this, just get rid of your double gold. Just make it 3. Like, I think we're at the point where we can tighten things up a little bit. But, like, we're looking at a competition where about 40% of the wines entered get a medal. And,
Haven't seen the Wine Line ones, but I would bet they're probably in the same vein.
It just seems really high. Like to have like 39.6% of the wines entered get some sort of medal, but I mean I'm trying to be like really careful with how I do this.
Well, I mean it's gold, silver, bronze, right? That's
trophy, double
plus
gold,
the trophies and
silver,
everything like that.
Gold, silver, and bronze.
Yeah, they do have various levels. And look, let's go with Wine Line. They do the same kind of thing. They do Wineries of the Year. They have a few extra ones that the All Canadians do not. But I would bet if when they finally have theirs out, that they are probably in the 30 to 40 range as well of the percentage of medals that come out of that competition.
Okay. I will give a slight tip of the hat to the fact that only 64 double golds were given out.
Yeah,
which is less than 5% of the wines, which should track for the number of entries.
Yeah.
These awards should mean something, and they should mean something to the people who pay to enter, because you have to pay to enter the competition. The Ontario Wine Awards, 351 wines entered.
Yeah.
324 medals given out.
That, by rough calculation, that's about 92 and change percent, 92.3, is that?
That is 92.3%.
Ooh, look at me. Classical education.
I mean, you can run your competitions however you want. I think the thing that, and I guess this is another full disclosure before it just seems like I'm crapping on the Ontario Wine Awards, is one, I was a regular judge of the Ontario Wine Awards. A few years ago, they gave Norman Hardy Winemaker of the Year, and I went on my radio show on AM 640 at the time to be critical of the Ontario Wine Awards for allowing Norman Hardy to participate, which I stand by.
Well, he was stripped of that honor, and
after
then,
the backlash.
But then he also got, I think, Riesling of the Year when it switched over to
George Brown.
And it was amazing that they had allowed him to even enter. Let alone win something.
We're not here to relitigate that. This is just as just to make sure, because there might be the appearance of sour grapes on my part. Is after I was critical of the awards, they have not asked me back to be a judge, which is neither here nor there. They can do whatever they want. But the thing is,
they asked me a couple of years ago, and I declined because, one of the things that I think we should all become clear on is that the judges are paid. Like, this is your job. We're paying for your expertise. The
the Ontario Winery and Tony, this is no offense to you, because I know you ran a pretty lean ship, but like it used to be like $100 stipend.
Correct.
And like I'll be honest, I like for my day job, I charge a lot more than minimum wage, and to spend a day judging wines for $100, you're not doing it for the money.
No, you're doing it for the honor and the prestige. But I mean, the Ontario Wine Awards, they didn't pay anything this year. It cost people money to come in.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like it's heartbreaking where even though they didn't ask me to go back, and even though there could be the appearance of sour grapes, the thing I always respected the hell out of the Ontario Wine Awards, especially when you and I were judging on the regular, was that there were only 3 medals given per category.
It was the hardest wine competition to win, I think, in Canada. There was three medals in each
gold,
category.
Silver, bronze.
That was it.
And occasionally you might have a tie where there's 2 golds or 2 silvers, but there would only be 3 medals given per category. So to see like how far things have fallen is frankly embarrassing. And the thing is it's just like, I feel bad for the wineries that are issuing their press releases that are touting their medals, talking about like, look at our great accomplishment that we won 11 medals at the Ontario Wine Awards.
I hate to tell you, it's not as big a deal as
they're participation medals now.
Correct, and that's what it is. Well, who I feel bad for is the 26 wineries that didn't win a thing.
But here's the thing: is I want to find out which of those 26 wines didn't win, just to find out like which ones they are, and how come they didn't cut the muster. I mean, we spent a lot of time on this podcast over the past decade talking about scores, talking about standards, talking about a lot of things, and it is something I do think about often. And I think you and I are at the point where we've recalibrated our scoring system. Is we go back to 2010. I think what would have been a 3.5 star in 2010 in 2020 would not get a score, full stop, because winemaking technology has gotten so much farther. The access to equipment we have in Niagara has gotten so much better. The access to knowledge that we have, even myself, like as the ADX wine company that makes 400 cases of wine a year, if I taste something in barrel, or Adam or Vadim taste something, or Adam or Vadim want to get a lab analysis done, I obviously don't own my own lab, but I have access to the tools to get my wines analyzed. I have access to machines that I can rent and borrow in wineries that open the doors to us. The technology that exists to make sure that the standard of winemaking is as high as possible has never been better. So it absolutely makes sense that the standard would be higher, but as a result, your scoring also needs to be higher. You can't be scoring your wines that 92% of the wines entered in a competition win a medal, or the medals become meaningless. These are meant to be marketing tools to help the wineries move bottles, and you've essentially taken that sticker that someone has trusted you as a competition when they entered it to do a good job and to scrutinize the wines with authority and expertise, and rendered it meaningless.
And I'm totally in agreement with you. We've talked off mic about this. They have taken an awards that really meant something special and have basically degraded it into, as you said, a participation medal. Thanks for showing up. We're going to give you this. Here's a little charity for you. Thanks for giving us your money.
Yeah.
Now here's what you bought. And it feels that way, instead of like a competition where you've won something on your merit, you've now, quote unquote, won something because you paid us.
What he said. So just so we can end on a high note, we're finishing off an our glass. You and I have been talking a lot about port lately.
Yep.
In 2024, I did my second trip to Porto. I was already in love with the wine, but came back with an insane amount of wine knowledge. You and I just had a nice discussion in my living room before we hit record about the different kinds of port, Colada versus Tawny versus Ruby versus late bottle vintage, and I can't believe I retained all of it.
I know it's like port is still one of those wines that I think a lot of people get very confused about. They're never sure what they're getting. Ruby versus late bottle versus vintage. What's the difference? You know, it's not as complicated as sherry, but it is like on the next.
Well,
it is on the next level of complication of what am I getting in this bottle?
It is one of those things where it's chicken and the egg. With regard to Ontario, is I think one of the big problems we have is we don't generally have access to a broader portfolio of what's available from Portugal. From Porto, and when the good stuff comes in, it doesn't go in very long because they bring in so little of it, and there are some people like me and like you who do enjoy a good fortified bottle.
Yeah, you came across a bottle of Kopke,
late bottled vintage
2020,
and when I tasted this wine in my living room with my wife, the complexity and the depth, because one of my specialties, and I'll cook this for you. I don't know if I've cooked this for you. Anyways, if I haven't cooked it for you, I will cook it for you. But one of my specialties has been either braised lamb. I've done it with grilled lamb as well, where I do a port reduction.
Oh, I know. I've never had a pork reduction from you.
Oh, it's...
Port or pork?
Port. Port. We're talking about port wine, Michael. But to do like a port reduction where I make essentially a gravy, where I take like a full bottle of LBV and I reduce it until it becomes super thick like gravy with some beef stock in it, correct the seasoning with some salt. I'll occasionally throw in some herbs, like maybe a sprig of rosemary, which is very lamb-centric, or we're in my backyard with my little herb garden. I got a beautiful tarragon plant that's doing pretty well. Yeah, it's just, there's been a lot of port coming into this house.
I still love port. Anybody who's not aging their late bottled vintage, you're missing out on something absolutely spectacular. One of these days, I got to bring over one of my 20-year-old late bottled vintages, and you'll be like, "Why did you keep this?" And then you'll taste it, and you go, "I see why you kept this."
I need to have that conversation with you because it is something I learned in Portugal. Is that once the late bottle vintage is filtered, and most of them are filtered, and you can see. So I opened up a Ramos Pinto 10, and I'm going to ask you about this after I finish this story. It's finished with like kind of what you expect the typical bottle of port to have, which is
a tea cork.
It's a cork with a plastic stopper on the top. Most LBV is that, and this is something I learned at Newport and at Ramos Pinto, is they make unfiltered LBV port, and in Portugal, it's still a bargain compared to vintage port, but it's filled with a regular cork, so that you get more of that oxygen transfer. So I'm going to be curious to see how it ages with that. But this came through vintages earlier this year. I've gone through a case and a half bottles, 375 mils, which I'm annoyed about. The Ramos Pinto 10-year Tawny. This is one of my favorite ports that exists on the planet. I have an affection for the brand. Thomas, thank you for receiving me when we went there last fall. What did you think of this? So
I like it. My thing is though, I seem to like 20-year-old Tawny better than 10-year-old. I liked this. Obviously, I had a couple glasses while we were recording. I thought it was delicious, but I like the complexity of a 20. I like 30 and 40, which I've had before, but I keep going back to a 20 as being my go-to Tawny. I
like the 20s, but I keep coming back to the 10s. I think this comes back to the fact that what makes my mouth happy is pretty dialed in.
Yeah.
Is like, I don't like my wines too old. I like the freshness. I like the fruitiness. And it just feels like there's still a lot of freshness preserved in this 10, where once you get to the 20, if we're talking about like a seesaw, like this is seesawing a little bit more towards fresh with the 10.
Yeah.
Or the 20 seesaws a little bit more towards nutty.
I like the I guess the more complexity of the 20 where the fruit is just on that cusp of being oxidized or over, and it's I just find it to be kind of a fun wine, and I seem to gravitate towards them more and more every time we've done a tasting. We went to I think Mark Anthony, and they had one of the port producers there, and they poured the 10, 20, 30, 40. And I still leaned hard into the 20. I was like, that's really good.
And when I was in Portugal, I bought so many bottles of tawny port because it was like 10 to 15 euros, which is like 17 to 22 bucks here. And Anya and I, we had a few really nice nights where we just opened a bottle of tawny port in the hotel room, and that was our nightcap.
So are we gonna end with a little a little whiskey?
Yes. I had an interesting phone call this week. We're going to be setting up an interview shortly. Obviously, with American whiskey being off the shelf, I've been looking for alternatives. I'm still like walking on a cloud after our interview with Nika. Like, I love those whiskeys so much, and it was such a pleasure to get to speak with them.
The funniest part was is me reaching out to you a few weeks later and saying to you, hey, did you know that the Nika from the barrel is on sale again?
Oh, and I was like way ahead of you, buddy.
And I thought you said, oh, I forgot about that. So
no. I'd already bought 2 bottles when I saw it on sale.
I picked up a bottle, and so that's
but
like
I'm trying
one of the
not
ones.
To spend too much on the Nika ahead of time because I'm waiting for the extra marriage to come through.
You know what? I did like the extra marriage, but I still think I like the From the Barrel, and I now know why that's their flagship. It's just such a good whiskey. Anyway, so continue talking about...
So we're talking about spirits. So we're going to be setting up an interview with the people from John Sleeman and Sons. It's the Spring Mill Distillery. I've driven by it a few times, just heading up into Kitchener, and you drive by Guelph. I got the pitch in my inbox. I didn't send it to you immediately just because I wanted to talk to their people first. Yeah. But I got an email that said they are launching an Irish-style whiskey. Have you tasted this yet?
Not yet.
Because I know you have a bottle either at your house or en route.
Yeah. Yeah, it has arrived, and I was waiting for the go-ahead from you.
Well, here we are. We get to do it together. So this is going to be an unfiltered tasting. So this is their copper pot whiskey, done in an Irish style.
Well, because you know that I'm a big Irish whiskey fan, and that's one of the things that you pitched to me to. You said, this is an Irish-style whiskey, and I know you love Irish whiskey. It is my...
Yeah, that's your preferred, not mine.
That's my go-to. Like, I have probably a dozen or more bottles of Irish whiskey in the house. If I have an evening where I want a little whiskey nip at the end of the day, I usually lean very heavily into Irish. So,
and lately I've been leaning heavily into Nika.
I fully understand that.
But recently, so you and I 2 years ago did for Toronto Life, we got to do a roundup of Canadian spirits. And there were 2 bottles from John Sleeman that made the cut.
Yeah.
And I can't remember, I don't think both made the column because, believe it or not, those of you who read our columns, we try to structure them so that even if one company has like 5 of the same wine in it, that it's interesting to the readers.
Yeah. So, and it's interesting because this, Sleeman's was is a beer company that got into.
You know what? We're going to get that full story when we interview them, because I think that is one of the complexities of it, is that the family name sold the beer company, and this may be the next chapter, but I'm not entirely sure.
Oh, it should be interesting to see.
It will be 100% interesting to see. But let's do.
I like this. I got some vanilla. I got a nice smoothness. It's not. And one of the things I really like about Irish whiskey is that it is not, for the most part. And I don't think I've ever had a peated Irish whiskey. So I don't like that.
No, it's unpeated.
I did like the smoothness of this. I liked the what I always call the burn. You know, that part that, you know, you feel it in your chest and it's like a warming sensation that almost at sometimes hurts.
Yes.
This one does not have that. It is smooth. It is silky. It's almost creamy to a point.
Interesting. Okay. So for me, first off, let me preface this by saying this is a good whiskey. I'm not just saying this because we're trying to get an interview with them. But, I mean, in terms of Canadian whiskey, I'm always happy when we get Canadian whiskey that doesn't have that, like, kind of muddy brown sugar flavor. Like, that to me is, like, what most Canadian whiskey tastes like. I like something that has a bit of, like, spice and something that grips the mid-palate. The problem I have with this is, I think, similar to a lot of newer or younger distillers that don't have a big back catalog of barrels to pull from, like, you know, unlike Hiram Walker, JP Wises, who we've done the interview with earlier this year. I do find that I get a bit of wood tannin on the back palate. Like, it tastes a little.
That's where the vanilla I think comes in.
And for me, it jumps over the edge of the cliff and becomes sappy, like tree sap as opposed to vanilla. But that being said, I did, as you can see, I've already taken a nip out of this before you and I tasted together.
More than a nip.
Earlier this week, I was playing video games. Let's just say I had two nips out of it while playing Forza. Don't drink and drive on the road, but drink and drive while playing Forza. It was great on ice. What I found is on a little bit of ice, it softened the wood tannin and turned the wood tannin more into vanilla. But tasting the assembly of this whiskey, the flavor profile, this is something where I think in 5 years and in 10 years, when you have a back catalog, a back library of whiskey to do your blending, they are 100% on the right track.
I think they are. What I miss in this particular whiskey is the complexity. It seems to be maybe one or two notes here.
But also, I think it's like $40 a bottle.
You know, so I like it. It's one of those whiskeys I'm going to happily drink. But as you said, in a few years when they have some back catalog,
does it hit the notes of Irish whiskey for you? Is it in the same league as a Bushmills?
It's
because I think this is better than Bushmills.
I think it's in the same league. I don't think it's better. I think it's kind of in the same room as a Busker Green Label.
Okay,
if you've ever had a Busker's, which is really a smooth, easy drinking Irish. You know, it's the kind of thing where, you know, you never see those movies where the guy's walking down the street and he's got the bottle in a bag and he takes a sip out of the bottle and you think,
yeah, those are not things that you want to be drinking, Michael.
Correct. And but the Buskers is kind of that Irish whiskey because it
Michael,
has that smoothness to it.
That's not complimentary to Buskers.
And I'm the same way here. It's smooth enough where you could just drink away at it through the course of an evening and you'd be happy that way.
I'm Andre Prue of AndreWineReview.ca, at Andre Wine Review on social media. What do you think about Wine Awards? My inbox is open, and
make comments on social. We're doing regular posts on Instagram. We are both posting on Facebook, but Instagram is kind of the major one that we're doing. So
and you know, here's the new one. If you like this podcast, share it with a friend.
Please do.
Good ideas share. Good ideas spread when you share them. Oh, yeah, you can tell that the whiskey's starting to hit.
I should do a quick little preview. We have a few great interviews coming up that we've done. Well, that I did them.
You did?
Yeah, and some great wines to taste. There's some
great wines?
Right Bank. My God, the whiskey really has hit you. We got some...
well, this is news to me.
I got Edouard Mouillet coming up, where we have some nice Right Bank Bordeaux, where we're going to be drinking and talking to him. We have a couple of Italian...
we have Avaleta coming up. We're going to do Vino Verde.
Yeah, we have Avaleta. So we do have some more of our, more interesting content. This was one of our,
we phoned it in.
Biannual.
We phoned it in.
quarterly.
No, we phoned it in. You can just say we phoned it in.
I personally like these podcasts because we get to catch up. We get to tell you what's on our minds. And
I'm not going to lie. Venting about the Ontario Wine Awards felt pretty damn good.
Oh, and you should have seen his face. I think it was all red. I'm Michael Pinkus of MichaelPinkusWineReview.com.
Take us
away. You
away.
can find me on social media as the grape guy.
He's still talking.
Yeah, I am. And you know what? Cheers. Good night.
Thanks for listening. Please subscribe to Two Guys Talking Wine on iTunes.
Two Guys Talking Wine is produced by Adam Duran and Ken Little.